What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 391st episode of the Pokemon Podcast. It's super effective. I am your host, SBJ. With me is Will.
It is now, the second weekend in January? If you were planning on giving up on the gym, now's the time to do it, friends. Now is the time to give up, and please make room for Will again. That's my anti-clanging and banging sentiment.
All right.
It's bad, but...
Greg, also here, also probably complaining about people in the gym.
Well, okay. This is like a twofold problem. It's, one, people who actually want to make a change, like, who would probably enjoy the gym, pick this time of year when it's just full of people and nobody knows what they're doing. And so you're getting this false perspective of a super busy gym when in March, there's like 5 of us there, and that's the time to join the gym, because you could actually get staff to help you, to have room in the locker room. Right now, it's just a mess of people, and a lot of them are just standing around because they don't know what to do, and there's not enough staff to help them. It's just madness.
A mess of people who don't understand basic gym courtesy, such as, if someone is standing next to a piece of equipment, facing the piece of equipment, most likely they're planning on using that piece of equipment. Don't just go and sit on it right in front of them without even asking, hey, were you going to use this? Oh, I got so mad.
Let me tell you about Ring Fit Adventure.
I know, I could do that at home.
You could.
You could.
You could. You won't, but you could.
It's even supported by Apple Watch. This is makes it even better.
Get all that Pilates on.
Well, speaking of Pilates, there was a Pokemon announcement.
There was?
What?
I don't think there was any Pilates in it, though.
But
they both start with P, so that was my transition.
Oh. Is this about trade evolutions?
Yes.
Sweet!
We have a huge show for you guys. We're going to get right into it, actually. There is some Pokemon Go news and some other news, but we're actually going to just start off with the good stuff here. And Build-A-Bear is bringing... No, I'm just kidding. There's no Build-A-Bear news.
Didn't we discover that Build-A-Bear, if you brought your Eevee in, they'd rip it apart and make it into a new one?
I've heard that rumor. Yes,
well,
they'll take out the stuffing and restuff a new one with it. It's evolution.
Pretty good if they did that. Yeah, there was a Pokemon Direct on January 9th. And it was 20 minutes long, which is one of the longest Pokemon Directs ever, if not the longest, I think. I think it was 20 minutes and 26 seconds if you were counting, and I think the longest one prior to that was like 19 minutes and 26 seconds, which I think was the one right before X and Y came out. So there was a lot of assumptions that this was going to be in regards to Pokemon Home and Pokemon Sleep, and ideally Detective Pikachu for the Switch, which I think a lot of people have forgot about, that's still in development. And it was not that. There was also a side of people that thought that this was maybe going to be the 2020 fall game, whether that was a Gen 4 remake or a Gen 2 remake, an ultimate Pokemon MMO that had whatever your fantasies were. That was dubbed probably highly unlikely, since the fastest we've ever gotten a Pokemon game announcement after another Pokemon game was when they announced Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, what we now know as Sword and Shield, which was 5 months after Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. As of this recording, Sword and Shield, believe it or not even 2 months old.
What?
I guess logistically, it would be really weird for them to say, like, hey, we spent all this work in a brand new generation of Pokemon with a brand new anime that isn't even out yet, and a brand new trading card game format that isn't even out yet, to announce another video game. They did not do that, but they did something which I guess people have opinions on. But this was emailed to me. This is the press release that they sent out. Obviously, it's kind of hard to cover a 20-minute video, so we're going to read what they wrote. Pokemon Sword Expansion Pass and Pokemon Shield Expansion Patch to launch 2020 with 2 sets of additional content. And then in subtext, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX for Nintendo Switch was also announced. This is where you guys are going to be like, oh my gosh, an expansion pass.
No, I'm just like, I was like, is that the entirety of the press release right there?
It's actually really long. The Pokemon Company International and Nintendo announced new downloadable content. They call that DLC here. For the Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield video games, the Pokemon Sword expansion and the Pokemon Shield expansion pass will contain the Island of Amor and the Crown Tundra expansions, 2 separate adventures that will enable fans to meet new characters, catch newly discovered Pokemon, and explore new areas of the Galar region. Available now exclusively on Nintendo Switch systems, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield are the fastest-selling Nintendo Switch titles of all time, and the highest-grossing launch of any Pokemon game, with more than 6 million units sold worldwide during launch weekend. I'm just gonna repeat that sentence real quick for
for prosperity's sake?
For maybe all the national dexers who might still listen to the show.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
Available now exclusively on the Nintendo Switch systems, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield are the fastest-selling Nintendo Switch games of all time. And it had the highest...
hard to believe.
Grossing... Well...
With all the shortcuts they took.
And the highest grossing launch of any Pokemon game.
And the lack of content.
With more than 6 million units sold during launch weekend. So that's like a weird sentence.
It is a weird sentence.
The first,
I don't know if it's written weird, but you definitely read it weird.
So the first part makes sense. Faster selling than Zelda, Mario Party. What other else?
Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild. But to be fair, Breath of the Wild came out the same day the Nintendo Switch came out.
True.
You would have had to buy a Switch and Zelda at the same time.
What about Katamari Damacy?
You know, I think Pokemon has a slight edge.
That's not the hot seller you think it is.
Well, it is in my house.
It is in this house, but we are a minority.
The highest grossing launch of any Pokemon game with more than 6 million units sold worldwide during launch weekend. That is a weird sentence because they say the highest grossing launch of any Pokemon game, which would mean that the Pokemon game that made the most money, and then they say 6 million units, and then they say launch weekend. So what is a launch weekend to them? Is that Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Is that Saturday, Sunday? Is that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
It's probably like similar to movies, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Actually, Thursday night, Friday, Saturday,
Thursday
Sunday.
night, midnight. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Remember when new music albums used to come out on Mondays at midnight? I remember those, like lining up at the record store.
New release Tuesdays were a big deal. Of course, it didn't matter that they came out at midnight because nothing was open.
Well, no, there were some albums that came out where the record store would open at midnight and they would line up and you're like, I'm going to get Radiohead's OK Computer.
That was pretty rare, though. It's no Harry Potter.
Maybe not rare here, but in DC it was pretty popular.
You get this out of the way real quick. During the Pokemon Direct presentation, the Pokemon Company International and Nintendo also unveiled Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. This game revisits the classic Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Red Rescue Team and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, which were originally released in the US in 2006. Now, the Nintendo Switch systems and the updated visuals of a stunning picture book art style, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX launches on March 6, 2020.
I am actually excited for this because I remember the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, the first ones came out. They actually came out as both Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS titles, if you recall that.
Yep.
And I had one on a trip that I took to Dallas because 2006 was a really hard year for me. And I remember I had the player guide and the game, and I was super excited for it. And eventually that petered out because I had too many other things to do with my life. So I'm kind of like excited to look at the first Pokemon Mystery Dungeon again on the Switch and then see like, maybe it's going to reignite my spark for it.
There's more information about that, but we'll circle back to the Mystery Dungeon stuff here in a little bit. So that was all that was in the announcement. Was they opened with the Mystery Dungeon stuff, which I have thoughts on. Then they went into the expansion pass, and then they said that Pokemon Home will be coming in February, but no details at the time. which is both like exciting and worrisome.
Yep,
but they're like, hey, next month, this huge thing that's supposed to appear on your Switch and your phones is supposed to come out, and it's supposed to be better than Bank, but we have no details.
We're not going to tell you anything about it.
At this point, I'm suspecting that it's going to come out on Switch, but not on the phones right away. I bet that part's going to be delayed.
I would agree with you.
And that's fine. It's not the end of the world. I just need a place to dump my Pokemon in Sword and Shield. So whatever it is, as long as it lets me dump my Pokemon.
Agreed.
All right. The Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield expansion pack. Trainers will be able to jump right into the adventure with the same save data that they've been using to play Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. They will also be able to begin exploring the Island of Amor and the Crown Tundra at almost any point in the main games. Whether a trainer has recently started their journey in the Galar region or is well along a path of becoming champion, they will be able to enjoy the new content as soon as it's released. And there's a little 1 here. So bullet point number 1. Players will footnote. Players will need to reach the wild area in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield in order to explore the Island of Amor or the Crown Tundra. This occurs about 2 hours of gameplay, though individual gameplay may vary. That's pretty fair, I think.
Yeah.
Get to the wild area, which is still before the first gym, and you will be able to go to the other areas. Is this where we speculate of what happens exactly in this content?
What's to speculate? They told us everything. It's, you go to the fighting dojo, you have your rival, you get to play with a Slowpoke, which, let me say, before anybody else gets to speak, if you do not catch Galarian Slowpoke in a heal ball, you've done it wrong. Galarian Slowpoke is yellow and pink. A heal ball is yellow and pink.
But
they
what
were
if
made
you-
for each other.
What if you're trying to get a shiny one? Then the heal ball doesn't match it anymore.
But look, shinies are wasted on me.
When do I get to express my disappointment about DLC?
Soon. We gotta get through the
right.
DLC.
Oh, no, you don't get to, because I'm going to not let you. I'm going to filibuster.
So
your
there's
DLC
always
hate.
so when I stream on Twitch, I get the benefit of people being like, I love the podcast and I can't believe Will hasn't beat the game yet. So I get a lot of that.
Yeah,
I get that on Twitter too. Y'all can stop, okay? I am doing my best.
They want me to help you, and I'm like, I can't. There's no helping, Will.
No, okay.
What do you want me to do?
Here's the update for the week. I was like, let me make this interesting for myself. So I was like, you know what? I would really enjoy having an all ghost type team. So I put together this nice, pretty well balanced all ghost type team. I was like, this is going to be fun. And I played for 10 minutes, and literally every Pokemon I was up against knew a dark type move and used a dark type move and wiped out my ghost type team. Why is Galar full of everybody playing dark type moves and making this game miserable for me? Why couldn't I just have a pass on that?
200 IQ.
Which is
Galar's playing 5D chess.
Yes. Galar's playing 5D chess, and I'm like, I'm not here for it.
Checkers.
Look. Here's news flash. This game has converted me into a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon player. That's how bad life has become.
Just try to play Mystery Dungeon. We'll see how long that lasts.
See, the theory all weekend was Will is going to hate the DLC and Greg is going to love the DLC.
What?
You
fools.
Oh.
But going back to, you can go to the new DLC at any point in time. How, I guess, are they going to scale it if you're level 15, and how are they going to scale it if you're level 100? Granted, you beat the game. If there's more story content.
I doubt that they're going to scale it at all. They're going to do it like the wild area where you go and it's just like, well, you're level 4 Pokemon, but you're running into this level 50 Pangoro.
Yeah,
and,
the wild area stuff makes sense. But if there's trainers you have to battle to, if for some reason this fighting dojo is, let's assume that it's a gym challenge. What level is that gym challenge going to be at to get to the end of the fighting dojo to... I assume fighting dojo is going to do something I don't assume that that's just going to be a gym challenge and then you're done and then you never go back to it again. I'm assuming it's probably a mechanic that, I don't know, like changes Rotom or Landorus or teaches your starters how to Dynamax or something.
It worries me that there's not going to be a lot of story. That they are just going to be expanded wild areas and maybe a little bit of, hey, this feature opens, like the dojo is akin to the nursery or to the battle tower and there's not much more to it. I'm worried about that with this sort of, you can go there at any time. Because if it's just a wild area...
No, so what I'm thinking is when they say you can go there at any time, is that you can go and you can do the part that is the wild area part where it's like the free roaming camera and you like can go in any direction and visit any area. But once you get to the actual dojo building and try to start doing tasks in the dojo building, that those will be gated and that you'll have to be at certain levels in order to do those sections. And it's like, you can come here. Doesn't mean you're going to be able to do anything, but you can come.
That's probably realistic, and I guess, yeah, Greg makes a good point, where it could be like the battle tower? Is that what you said? Where they could just be like, all right, this might be a series of challenges, but we're going to scale you to 50.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe is like the best way to do it. But, when I think of Battle Dojo, I think of like, oh, it's probably a lot of battles.
See, this just sort of tackles on my nervousness about paying $30 for another battle tower and a new wild area.
I'd pay $30 for more wild area. I don't know if I would pay $30 for an extra battle tower, since I haven't even gone through battle tower in the first game.
Yeah, I'm concerned. I have strong concern.
All right, let's break this down even more. The Island of Amor is scheduled to release at the end of June 2020. The Crown Tundra in the fall of 2020. Assume probably November.
Probably November.
Probably November, yes.
Also, does anybody else find the sort of Japanese, Chinese style that they have for the clothing and for the main character of Isle of Armor a little...
They have a large immigrant community from East Asia
that only live on this island?
Have you met large immigrant communities before? Because yes.
It makes a little bit more sense when we get to the legendary Pokemon, I think. We'll circle back to the...
I mean, I know what you're talking about, and I don't agree, but...
Okay, all right, good. I'm glad that you're the negative on this episode, and Will has redemption. The tables have turned.
I mean, there is one very simple reason why I am all in on this content. And if people didn't recognize that just from the video, then you guys don't know me at all.
Okay.
I thought you did.
The Pokemon Sword Expansion Pass and the Pokemon Shield Expansion Pack will include both sets of content. This is also very confusing, and I had to explain this like 1,000,000 times this weekend. Which will be available for pre-purchase for a suggested retail price of $29.99 starting later today, January 9th. Both expansions will include new areas to explore, new discoverable Pokemon, clothing items, handy features, and more. In addition, fans can receive a special bonus while purchasing the expansion pass, a Pikachu uniform and a Eevee uniform. Fans will be able to receive the Pikachu and Eevee uniforms in Pokemon Sword and Shield by using the codes they will receive after they purchase the expansion pass. So I just want to get the price thing out of the way. This was very confusing. I'll make this as simple as I think I can. If you own one copy of the game, let's just say you went out and you bought Pokemon Sword because you liked Wolf having a sword in its mouth, you're a huge Dark Souls fan, you only, at most, have to spend $29, $30. You will get both Tundra and the other armor for $30, gets you both.
Well, plus tag.
If you
it's $29.99 plus tax. It's like $33.
If you own both copies of Sword and Shield because you wanted to give Game Freak $120 instead of $60, then you have to give them another $60 if you want both.
30, another 30. Oh, okay. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
If you want both for both games. Now, I don't know if they're going to, if you're going to be able to walk into Target, they're going to have a little DLC thing on the shelf, and that will probably not work and be compatible. I don't know if they're going that route. We also don't know if for, like, Christmas, they're going to sell maybe, like, an Ultimate Edition or an actual physical copy of these games that already have both on the shelf. Ideally, there's still an importance to having your game on retail shelves.
Well, also, when you go to the menu screen in-game, like to the save menu, there is now a link that says, click here to get the expansion pass.
Yes.
It's like no thought required.
I think, at least from where I'm coming from, I don't actually know if it's worth it to buy it on both games. Because most, and everyone's different, but most people who buy both games, they do it because they want to, like, trade with themselves and they want to catch, both... Like, a lot of people aren't giving away their Zacian or Zamazenta. So if you buy both games, you'll be able to get both, transfer them into one, and most people have, like, a main game. Like, my main game is Shield.
Mine too.
But I have gone through Sword because, like I said, no one's going to trade me their Zacian. No one's going to trade me their Type Null. They probably evolved it to Savalai. But, like, if I bought the DLC on Shield and I go through it, unless I want to, like, experience that, like, DLC specifically again... But at that point, we don't even know how much story there is. So is it worth it to buy it on a game I barely played to go through a wild area when I can get all the benefits of a wild area in the other one? So I don't know if you really need to buy both if you own both games.
I mean, there's a couple of things that I bought both. We do know that there's probably going to be exclusives between both.
Definitely.
And I think the Isle of Armor Legendary that has 2 forms might be exclusive to each. There's that. So I have purchased both. I mean, as much as I'm skeptical about this whole thing, I have paid them my $60 because of the potential for exclusivity.
Yeah. Okay, so the difference here between the two, in the Island of Armor, in this expansion, trainers will head to the Island of Armor, the stage of a new adventure in the Galar region. The Island of Armor is a giant island full of environments not seen in Galar before. The players will find wave-swept beaches, forests, bogs, caves, and sand dunes. There are also plenty of Pokemon that will make the island their home, living freely amid the lush natural surroundings. There's even a dojo there that will specialize in some very particular training styles. Trainers and their Pokemon will take up apprenticeship under the master of this dojo to train hard and become stronger. The Crown Tundra,
that too.
On the other hand...
Are we not going to talk about the other new Pokemon in the Isle of Armor?
I'm trying to go in order here.
What order?
The order of the press release.
Press release order.
I don't have it. Send it to me.
This expansion is set in the snow-swept realm of the Crown Tundra. The Crown Tundra features a beautiful, shining, silvery landscape. In this frigid area with the jagged wintered mountains, people live in small communities where they rely on each other. SOS confirmed. That's not true. A certain Pokemon will appoint the player as the leader of the exploration team in the Crown Tundra, where trainers will be tasked with investigating the reaches of this frozen land. Here, trainers will be able to explore the full depth of Pokemon dens, which they've only been able to see a glimpse of in max raid battles.
So you're going underground.
It's fascinating. So you get to go and actually explore the full den. Like, instead of just popping in, fighting the thing at the opening, and then leaving, like, you get to move around in these things.
And you're going to find out where they're hoarding all those TRs and berries.
Yeah, but what's like a full den? Is a full den like, I went through the Ultra Wormhole, I made it to Celesteela's land, and I, like, did the most simplest puzzle ever to then encounter Celeste?
Probably.
Newly discovered Pokemon. Let's start off with Kubfu, which is the Wushu Pokemon. It is a fighting type. 2 feet tall, American feet, of course, 26.5 American pounds. So probably a little bit heavier than your cat.
A little bit.
The ability Inner Focus. Kubfu will appear in the Island of Armor. This Pokemon is hardworking and strives to train both its body and its mind. It uses each to defeat as motivation, training itself with even more vigor after a loss in order to grow stronger. It has an organ that produces fighting energy in its lower abdomen, and before heading into battle, Kubfu will release energy through unique breathing techniques and intense focus. Wild Kubfu live in the mountains, mountainous areas far away from the Galar region, but it was once a species that called Galar its home. It's noted in historical texts that this Pokemon species used to head to uncharted lands with people as they set out to trade or explore. Records suggest that Kubfu living in faraway mountains today have descended from Kubfoods that became naturalized to the distant lands in visited journeys.
Kubfu, the Conqueror Pokemon.
No, the Wushu Pokemon.
Oh, sorry.
I liked it better the first time they did it, and it was called Pancham. Thank you. Pancham was robbed. Pancham has been robbed. That's all I have to say on this matter.
I kind of like how some Pokemon are very similar to each other. Like Diancie and the thing that no one cares about.
What? Oh, you mean the mechanical Pokemon?
No. Well, I mean that too. The gem crit, the thing that Sableye eats. What's it called? I can't remember this Pokemon's name. I'm the worst host ever. What is it called?
The one that's like Rock Fairy or
something like that? Carbink. Not to be confused with Carkol.
Wait, Diancie is a Carbink. It's a special Carbink.
Yeah, but they're not, like, Carbink doesn't evolve into Diancie.
But no, but still, in the lore, Diancie is a special Carbink. It's not just like where they like copied and pasted Pancham and then just took the leaf out of its mouth and said, "Okay, you're the cutie fighting Pokemon now, Pancham. You're yesterday's hot trash."
I think they maybe allude to it being a sudden transformation of a Carbink. All right, never mind. The Pokedex entry says.
Look, Will Anderson does been doing Pokemon of the Week for a fair number of years to have picked up on that little nugget of knowledge right there.
There is like Luvdisc and Alola Mola.
Yes, which should have been connected. There's Miltank and Tauros. Should have been connected. And Bouffalant.
Somewhere out there.
Somewhere out there, boofing.
So, but let's like not in as your resident zoologist for the next 45 seconds. Like alligators and crocodiles, they're kind of similar, but
it's actually pronounced zoologist.
Thank you. You know, frogs and toads.
I like the design. I still think that the clear Japanese influence just is a little weird. Like
Taiwanese influence?
It could be. I mean, I don't know exactly where the headband style comes from.
Wu-Tang Clan. That's why it's the Wushu Pokemon.
That makes sense.
Well, what fighting style is Wushu? Like, Wushu is Chinese.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. You are asking.
Now I'm looking up Wushu. Wushu the sport. Wushu or Chinese Kung Fu. Yes, it's Chinese.
Wushu is where they smoke it and it's like shredded cabbage and you eat it with the little pancakes.
No,
I love Wushu pork.
You can't have that because of soy.
Don't you tell me what I can and cannot have.
I mean, I'm not telling you. Your body's telling you.
I can't even tell you a lot about American history. The only thing I learned in grade school, elementary school, and high school is there was a Civil War. And Abraham Lincoln and slavery. That's pretty much all they reiterate, at least in MPS.
What about George Washington?
I don't think we learned anything about George Washington.
Thomas Jefferson?
Wow. I don't think so either. I'm being completely honest.
You have listened to the Hamilton soundtrack. I know this to be true. I know who you are married to. You have been forced to listen to the Hamilton soundtrack. That's
true. I didn't learn that in MPS. I'm just saying MPS just reiterates the Civil War over and over again. Milwaukee Public Schools. I feel like there's like a small amount of history with Europe and China.
I mean,
right?
There is. I mean, so like it's playing a little bit off of the whole Marco Polo idea. Like they went out with traders and then they all left completely and just stayed there. Like, okay. Like there are no there are no of the original left. Like, everybody took them and we're like, well, we're going to Asia.
I'm confused on the direction of this. Are they saying that the what was his name? Kubfu?
Kubfu.
Kubfu.
Oh, they're just
Kubfu.
I don't know. That's a pretty good name.
That it came from it's like half Kubfu, half Pancham, whatever.
Yep.
That it came from Galar and went to Asia, or that it came from Asia to Galar?
Now it's come back from Asia to Galar. It started and they all left, apparently, or enough of them left that the species died out, dark. And then now they're back because they've opened up this dojo on the Isle.
Oh, well, that's
Arbor.
just, what is it called when all the continents are crammed up next to each other? Gaia?
Pangea?
No. Pangea. Yeah, it's just that bit right there.
No, they specifically say they left with people on trade. There were vast traders on Pangea.
You don't know. You weren't there.
I was there. I'm immortal.
It's disturbing.
Did Pangea have a civil war, and was Abraham Lincoln involved?
Abraham Dinosaur Lincoln was involved.
Okay, so I saw some people being I saw a couple some negative comments about this, because prior to these games coming out, they said they really thought about the Pokemon that would live in the Galar region, and then some people complained that, yes, Europe or Great Britain is full of cactuses and elephants. Obviously, that's not true. Obviously, every Pokemon that is in Galar isn't specifically.
I can feel it with the cactus, but if you're going to try to make a case that elephants with England's relationship, mostly negative relationship with India, doesn't mean that they would not have elephants, that's like glossing over that bit of history.
Absolutely. Yes. Even with the name of the Pokemon is like almost derived from an Indian term.
Yeah. It's the elephant belongs there, whether you like it or not. Whether you want to like talk about the dark history with India and the expansion of the British Empire, like I can see about the cactus, but not about the elephant.
Lack of Lillipup and Stoutland and stuff was also a complaint.
But if they really wanted it to just be like British animals, it would be like 6 ugly birds and a badger.
and a Grand Bull.
Sure.
And Yamper, because corgis.
I can get behind the Chinese, maybe generalized Asian theme of Kubfu in a British game, because as somebody this is gonna be lost on some people. As somebody who watches a lot of Japanese wrestling, they love to go out of their way to say that this Japanese megastar wrestler couldn't make it in Japan, so they went to Mexico. It's always Mexico. Always. They'll be like...
Well, because Mexico has a big history of luchador fighting.
Right, so they'll always say, like, this wrestler who is now a megastar in Japan, this Japanese wrestler who's a megastar in Japan, didn't become a megastar until they realized that they couldn't make it. They went to Mexico for 4 years. They learned the lucha libre style. They became this huge star in Mexico. They came back, and that's what made them a huge star in Japan. This is always the story of Japanese wrestling. I can definitely suspend my disbelief of this Pokemon started in Europe. It couldn't make it. It went to an Asian country. It learned the way of wushu, and then it came back. Like, that makes sense to me.
We're going to gloss over the problematic of couldn't make it and went to the mystical east to learn fighting. Like, we're just going to drop that whole line right now and say, problem, but fine, they did it.
Isn't that the story of the Iron Fist?
Yes.
Oh.
Aren't there a lot of movies, though, that have this, like, trope of...
Yes, okay. That's why it's called problematic.
That's why it's problematic.
I mean, is it really a trope, though, if Japanese wrestlers are legit going to Mexico and then learning and then coming back?
Yes.
Because they're not legit going to Mexico, are they?
No, they are.
I mean, it is still a trope. I mean, it's a reverse trope, but it's still a trope.
This is a legendary Pokemon. Trope or not, it evolves. It evolves to Urshifu, which has 2 different forms?
Which one will be sword, one will be shield. Pick which is which right now. Which do you think is which?
I don't. Single strike and rapid strike. One is fighting dark. One is fighting water. I'm going to say the water one is shield.
I agree.
Do we have any other fighting water Pokemon?
Yeah, Poliwag.
Oh, yeah.
Poly-
the original.
Polyslap. What is it? It's Poliwhirl?
Poliwrath.
Poliwrath.
Is Keldeo not
Got
water
there.
fighting? Yeah, well, Keldeo's water fighting too.
This is fighting water. It's different. Because the fighting's first, the water's second.
Yeah, Keldeo, Poliwrath, and Urshifu are the only three that would be water fighting.
That's fine. I was just curious.
Both 6'3", both 231 pounds, with the ability Unseen Fist, which is a new ability that they don't describe.
They don't.
Kubfu will evolve into Urshifu after it has undergone significant training. It seems that Urshifu has two forms, Single Strike and Rapid Strike. It appears that each form has different types as well. Urshifu in a Single Strike form style battles without holding anything back. When enraged, it will mercilessly attack its opponents until utter defeat. The Single Strike style Urshifu's movements are also direct and involve rushing forward in a straight line. It will keep its distance from opponents at first and only leap in close instantly to deliver a powerful blow. Urshifu in Rapid Strike style maintains a calm demeanor, observing their opponents and measuring their strength while dodging attacks. A Rapid style Urshifu will use the flowing movements to battle smoothly to parry an opponent's movements and then overwhelm the opponent with a flurry of rapid strikes.
Furry flurry of blizzards.
So we've had a couple legendary Pokemon evolve before, specifically Cosmog into Cosmoem.
Yeah.
Into those.
Yeah.
It's the new thing. It's the new craze of the 20-teens.
I mean, I say I like the design better than I like Kubfu's design.
I'm not super in love with them yet, but
I just if they hadn't included Pancham and Pangoro in these games, if they had been excluded, and then this was like a way of reintroducing them in some sort of more meta applicable manner, I would have been like, okay. But the fact it's like Pancham's right there. He's like on the outside of the window looking in, and he's like, I'm so sad. I like a fighting dojo too.
Yeah, but what if when you go there, they're like wrestling each other? Pancham maybe should have went to Mexico.
Then can I say I would want to learn from you, Pancham? I don't want to learn from Mushuport.
I'm not sure what we're getting by them fighting each other when you arrive at the dojo, other than it's confirming that Pancham got there first.
Yes.
I could just see them living together. Just one happens to be legendary and one happens to not be.
Why is one legendary? Poor Pancham.
Yeah, because one traveled to China, Greg.
And one came from there.
One's an endangered species. It will truly be legendary quite soon.
Oh boy. They're fine, I guess. I don't know. I'm not in love with these two Pokemon.
They're fine. Yeah, I mean they're nothing. I'm sure I'll change my mind when I see them in motion, as I have with most things.
Well, we also have to see what Hidden Fist does.
Unseen Fist.
Unseen Fist, because that could be a game changer.
So Gigantamax, Single Strike, and Rapid Strike, still the Wushu Pokemon, still fighting dark, fighting waters, still Unseen Fist. Single Strike style Urshifu and Rapid Strike style Urshifu also have Gigantamax forms. Gigantamax Single Strike style... Jeez. Come on, Pokemon. This is a lot to say. Gigantamax Single Strike style Urshifu looks like it's ready to bellow in fury. People call it both the very embodiment of rage and a divine emissary that banishes evil spirits with fury. Gigantamax Rapid Strike style Urshifu will quietly maintain its stance with a calm expression. When facing this Pokemon, it seems some will be greatly agitated, feeling as very depths of their souls have been exposed. Yet others report feeling a sense of relief, as if they've been cleansed of an evil spirit.
Why is Rapid Strike style Gigantamax Urshifu shorter than Single Strike File when they are the same size in their previous form.
No. It's Rapid Strike style is, at least in the image I'm looking at, it's higher because it's standing straight up on one leg with the other leg raised.
No, look at their heights. Look at their heights.
Their heights are different.
The official height?
Yeah.
Yeah, why is one 10 feet different?
Single Strike is 95 feet, and Rapid Strike is 85 feet.
And they both start at 6'3".
Yes.
Why?
Same height as me.
You're 6'3"?
Or 2. Somewhere
Or 2.
in there.
Yeah, I
mean, I know you're tall. I just didn't know that you were... For some reason, I thought you were 6'1".
Not quite.
Look, my entire height thing was destroyed by Brent long ago, so I just found that weird. Like, why do they change height?
Maybe the numbers mean something. 952 and 854.
Single Strike is also like the Gigantamax forms is super red, and then the Rapid Strike is super blue.
Yeah.
Unless they do like
Red
a black and white 2 where they switch them. Right? That was the thing in black and white 2. They switched the legendary cover legendaries.
Yeah. What is the Japanese words for 952 and 854?
I don't know. Andrew?
Because it could be like the numbers on your jersey.
Oh, like a pun?
Spells out a word. Yeah.
All right, we got some new Pokemon, and we got some more details, kind of breaking down the differences between these two expansions. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll go over these new Pokemon, and we'll go over the rest of this DLC. So we will be right back.
You gotta think outside of the box, dude.
Yeah.
And outside of the bun. Think outside the bun. Think outside the bun.
I mean, that's a pretty good saying.
Yeah. Think outside the bun. Think outside the bun. Think outside the bun. Isn't that the Taco Bell thing?
All right, we got 2 new Pokemon. Starting with the legendary Pokemon Calyrex. They say it in the Direct, but now I can't remember how they said it. I'll say Calyrex for now. I'm probably wrong. It is the king Pokemon. It is Psychic Grass. It is 3 feet 7 inches, a weight of 17 pounds. It is the ability Unnerve. Trainers will encounter Calyrex in the Crown Tundra. This Pokemon ruled all of Galar in ancient times. Though it appears delicate and slight, its every move is filled with grace and dignity. It also has an extremely high intelligence, and it is said to see every past, present, and future event.
We've got, 17 different Pokemon types, and we had to get another Celebi?
Yeah.
You're out of ideas, Pokemon.
What? Okay, hold on. What possible type? Like, the type makes sense for it.
But it didn't have to be grass.
What do you mean? It's based off a flower.
Okay, well, then let's base it off something else. Back to the very starting drawing board and say, all right, we've already done grass psychic. Let's do something different. All right, and then now what is it going to look like?
And how can you not have, like, the big brain Pokemon not be psychic?
No, psychic is fine. That I'm fine with. But why couldn't it have been
Ice.
Fairy psychic? I don't know. Ice psychic, sure.
I don't know.
There's
Psychic
only
from
one
the Crown
other
Tundra.
Psychic Ice, isn't
Psychic's
there?
been with everything. I don't think Psychic's not been with it. I mean, you have Psychic Steel's Bronzong, you have Psychic Fire, Delphox, Psychic Dark, Malamar, Normal Psychic, Oranguru, Bug Psychic is going to be the Orbeetle, Ice Psychic, Mr. Rhyme.
But I'm talking about mythical.
Fighting Psychic, Medicham.
I mean, I'm fine with every mythical being a psychic, but just like, why did we have to get another Celebi?
Yeah, there are a lot of Psychic mythical Pokemon.
There are.
Koopa Dark Psychic.
They like their Psychic types and Dragon types.
They do.
Dragon Psychic. That would have been great. Or Psychic Dragon. I don't care. One way or the other.
I mean, like, the
Is there a Psychic Dragon?
Ultra Necrozma, Latios.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I think the typing is fine. I mean, it's not like you can use mythical Pokemon in battles. It's not like anyone's ever used their Celebi besides Joe.
Why? It's his mascot.
There was...
I like the design. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
I want to see it move. It's a
well,
little...
it just floats.
Yeah.
Like a dandelion on the
With
wind.
its weird deer rabbit head.
There was debate with this Pokemon of whether it was a deer or a rabbit. I guess we end the debate here. It's a rabbit.
Why do you say it's a rabbit?
The will sigh.
I mean, I can definitely see it as a rabbit. When you look at the drawing of it, because it's not antlers, it has 4 ears.
Rex is a breed of rabbit.
It's also Latin for king.
Yeah, it's Latin for king, and there is a type of rabbit that is the Rex.
There's a species of rabbit, yes.
Calyrex. That part of its name comes from botany, which is the outermost group of floral parts, or like this.
Yeah, it's Latin for bud.
So it is a king rabbit with the bud being its crown.
I wonder if it'll blossom.
I'm sure it will have a form where its bud brain opens up or something.
I don't understand, like, in the drawing what it's pointing at. It's like,
you.
Over there.
Over there. It's a welcoming point. Come. Welcome to my home.
So this is like the third, right? This is the Kyurem of the set. This is the... Well, not every Pokemon game had like 3 versions, like Ho and Lugia are just solo, but you would assume that because this was the king, Zacian and Zamazenta are the sword and the shield for the king, right?
Sure.
I mean, you don't have to, but sure.
I mean, why is it in a different area and not in...
Well, it's in the Crown Tundra.
Yeah.
The crown. It's the king.
I mean, they don't really answer in the story why they covered up the fact that... I mean, I think Will's gotten that far. You got to the part where the Caparaja destroys that wall.
Yeah.
Spoiler, they don't really answer why the entire game you're like, why was this covered up?
Yeah. Why was that sculpture hidden away? And then graffitied over?
In the Bidoo Inn... where Sonia was like, why is there only one hero when these scriptures here show that there are 2 heroes?
Oh, the mysteries that still need to be unraveled.
I mean, I don't know that that's... I mean, it's like Lost in Time sort of a thing. So I don't know that there's much more to it than people started believing it one way and then it made sense to have a hero. It's just, I don't know that there's much more than people thought it was 1 and it's actually 2. You know?
Yeah.
Things get lost and uncovered all the time. I mean, I think what's more interesting is that we should talk about the fact that the Darkest Day happened at the same time Kalos fired off the big weapon.
I mean, they do say the Darkest Day is 3,000 years ago, and AZ's thing was 3,000 years ago.
It was 3,000 years ago.
Oh. Well, there you go. Someday they're going to come out with one of those books like they did for Zelda that's like, here's all the entire history of the Pokemon world. And it's going to be like, all these pieces are going to fit together.
That's all the book does not put any pieces together. It's like real. There's like a lot of stretches.
And our next new podcast, Pokemon Timeline, will discuss how the multiple universes fit together.
I actually do like this Pokemon, though. I think it's cool looking. I
like the design. At first I thought, are we just not seeing all of it? But then I realized when I finally saw pictures of it, like, oh no, it is upright with a little cape and a giant necklace.
Yeah. A big head, little body.
Big head, little body.
Like most psychics.
The standard trope of big head, little body.
Yeah.
I watched Akira. I know how it goes.
Regional forms of familiar Pokemon. Regional forms of certain Pokemon are found in Galar. These forms have adapted to the unique environment of the Galar region and look different than the same species might look when found in other regions. These adapted forms are known as Galar forms of these Pokemon and seem to have their behavior also differ from species previously discovered. And then they show us Galarian Slowpoke, which you can get as of this recording. It is the dopey Pokemon. It is 311. height, 79 pounds. The ability Gluttony and Own Tempo, it's psychic. The Slowpoke of the Galar region used to eat the seeds of certain plants that grew in their habitat. These seeds were, in fact, Galarcia seeds, used to this day as an essential spice for cooking in the Galar region. The Slowpoke and Galar built up particles of this spice in their bodies over several generations, even gaining the unique appearance and behavior they are known for today. Galarian Slowpoke spend their days wallowing on the seashore and in riverbanks without thinking of anything in particular. Occasionally, they might get a very sharp look in their eyes, but they will soon revert to their zoned-out expression. It is thought that the behavior is caused by the accumulation of Galarcia particles stimulating Galarian Slowpoke's brain, resulting in it thinking of something tremendous, only for Galarian Slowpoke to immediately forget of what they thought. Can we just talk about how this is longer than every description of the book?
Yeah, well, Slowpoke is very popular, so
it's very
they're going to spend a
Pokemon.
lot of time on it.
Yes.
Galarian Slowpoke can also evolve into Galarian Slowbro if a specific item can be found in the Island of Amor. If evolved into the Galarian Slowking, instead, if a specific item can be found in the Crown Tundra.
Original Slowpoke, is it psychic or is it water?
Psychic water?
I thought it was psychic water.
Oh, because this is just psychic.
I now have to look.
It is water psychic. And Galarian Slowpoke is pure psychic.
It's just psychic.
Regular Slowpoke's ability is Oblivious or Own Tempo, and Galarian Slowpoke's ability is Gluttony or Own Tempo.
Yeah.
Kanto Slowpoke's hidden ability is Regenerator. I guess we technically don't know if that would be the same.
It could be, it could not be. They've done different things, so...
And we do know that we don't know what Galarian Slowbro or Galarian Slowking look like. They show kind of some of it in the trailer.
Slowking's got a lot of eyes.
We don't know what its stats are. We don't know its ability. We don't know if like Slowking becomes like a super fast Pokemon instead of a super slow. Like we just don't know. There are stat differences between like Executor and Alolan Executor, and Raichu and Alolan Raichu and stuff. So, but that was cute. It was so the game did get updated from version 1.0.0 to version 1.1.0. It did fix there are no patch notes, of course, because it's a Nintendo game. So we don't know exactly what was fixed. I think people have already tested, and there was a issue with Sucker Punch in competitive. We do know that was fixed. The whole raid resetting, moving the clock forward, that was not fixed. Still, to this date, don't know if that could ever be fixed.
Yeah, I don't know if you...
With the update to 1.1.0, if you go to Wedgehurst and you have at least gotten to the wild area, you will meet one of the new characters for a hot second, and you will also be able to catch Galarian Slowpoke. If you're curious in shiny hunting it. You cannot get a shiny in the actual encounter, but you can Masuda breed or just breed for a shiny.
Did you ever get yours?
No, I'm at like 600.
Oh.
There was a quick theory that maybe it was like boosted odds, like the Magikarp event. But I think I think that like it actually gave like a cool moment in like the Pokemon community if you're active on like Discords or Slacks or Twitch or whatever, where everyone was hunting the same Pokemon. So that was kind of cool. It almost felt like a mini community day where everyone was breeding Slowpoke together. I don't think it's boosted at all. I just think a couple people got it very early and lucky, and then said they got it very early and lucky, but also everyone's hunting it at the same time. So then people are like,
yeah,
well, maybe I'll get it early and lucky. It's not how odds work.
Is this where we talk about the Gigantamax designs?
Yeah, we can talk. Well, yeah, let's talk about specifically the starters at least. So we have Gigantamax Rillaboom, Gigantamax Cinderace, Gigantamax Inteleon. Rillaboom is the drummer Pokemon. Rillaboom's tree stump drum has grown rapidly to the point that it now resembles a small forest on its own. Gigantamax Rillaboom has merged with the forest of the drums to become even more powerful. It can control its sticks as it was its own limbs, and will demonstrate transcendent
Transcendental
Yes.
drumming techniques. Gigantamax Rillaboom will completely focus on playing its drums, compelled by the power of welling up inside. The sound can reach across oceans and heard by those living in other regions. It's said that those who hear the beat will begin to dance uncontrollably, overwhelmed by the rhythm that surges from inside them.
What a fitting tribute to Neil Peart.
Yeah. Oh. I mean, I like this one, although I think I can't quite tell if it's its hair growing out to hold drumsticks. Is that what is that like?
Oh wait,
what everybody sees
hold on.
in this picture?
I didn't read. I guess I skipped over this. The Island of Amor expansion will allow trainers to help some of Pokemon traveling with them gain the ability to Gigantamax.
Well, there you go. Question
there you go.
Answered.
This has led to the discovery of Gigantamax Forms Rillaboom, Cinderace, and Inteleon, the evolutions of these 3 Pokemon that trainers could choose as their first starter Pokemon in the Galar region. I feel like that definitely answers the question.
Yeah, that probably answers the question, yes.
All right, Cinderace, the burning ball at Cinderace's feet has grown to massive proportions thanks to Gigantamax energy. If Gigantamax Cinderace kicks the ball using its well-honed techniques, the fighting spirit will possess the ball and cause the ball to pursue opponents as it has a mind of its own. Gigantamax Cinderace boasts incredible leg strength. In fact, its legs are said to rank among the strongest of all Pokemon. Even without its gigantic Pyro Ball, it can deliver powerful kicking moves that overwhelm other Dynamax Pokemon.
So Cinderace is now on a Final Fantasy Bomb, Final Fantasy Pokemon crossover confirmed.
Firefighting confirmed.
2021, when Pokemon shows up in the Final Fantasy MMO. It looks like a bomb. It does look like that
Yeah,
design.
it does look like the bomb from Final Fantasy.
Like a lot.
And finally, Inteleon. Inteleon has gained an extremely long tail thanks to Gigantamaxing. Its tail length is said to be over 130 feet. While Gigantamax, Inteleon will stretch out its long tail and hold it straight to form a pillar, and Inteleon will take battle on top of that position. Will take a battle position at the top. This Pokemon has incredibly sharp mind and calculated with the precise effects that gravity will have on the trajectory of its shots, enabling it to be an extremely effective sniper. Inteleon has hidden tools within its body, and these have been enhanced due to Gigantamax. Nictating membranes on its...
Sure.
Jeez, they're big words. Jeez, this is a
Nictating
game for
membranes,
10 years old, Pokemon.
No, that's like kids' biology.
Nictating?
Nictating.
What? Okay,
membranes.
break it down. What does that mean? Give me the science, Greg.
No, it's actually spelled nictitating.
Yeah, it's spelled weird. But that's how you spell it, right?
Oh, like not to blink?
Yeah, so the nictating membrane, like dogs have it, and most lizards have it. Is the third eyelid that's translucent, so they blink while keeping their eyes open, sort of.
Okay.
So it's a nictating membrane. It's a see-through membrane that's like an eyelid. It's how they can re-moisten their eyes while still maintaining vision. It's seen a lot in fish, reptiles, birds. Humans and primates don't have it. Camels, polar bears, seals, a lot of things have a nictating membrane. It's basically, for all intents and purposes, most people just call it the third eyelid. Because we're used to them when they close their eyes, but the nictating membrane allows them to continue seeing while moistening their eyeballs.
Well, this now lets Inteleon detect temperature, air pressure, and humidity. Inteleon is a skilled sniper as well, easily hitting a berry that is rolling around over 9 miles away.
Who thought the rifle was a good idea?
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but if we were thinking of these as like high school clique tropes, it has suddenly become bad.
I am uncomfortable with the rifle.
Is it more like a spear gun than a rifle?
Okay.
No, it says
not.
sniper right in it.
So there's no such thing, like people have been trying to, it's a water harpoon. There's no water harpoon perch. Water harpoons are used in the water, not from a sniper's perch. You also don't say, Oh, remember James Bond and his water harpoon? I mean, it's a secret agent Pokemon. It's a sniper rifle. They keep talking about him being a sniper.
Yeah, I mean, they're never going to say rifle, and they're never going to say gun. They will probably say sniper.
It's a little uncomfortable.
I think the optics are real bad on Gigantamax Inteleon.
Yeah.
They just really are.
The optics?
It looks like, I didn't want to say school shooter, but it looks like a school shooter. Like, you have the jock who's Cinderace, you have the musician that's, what's his name, Monkey Badood.
Oh.
And then you have the school shooter.
People were pushing the school angle for this really hard.
Yes,
like,
we were on this podcast, we talked about the school angle.
And, like, this edition just makes it
look bad.
Yeah,
the optics are bad.
The optics are bad. I'm glad they're getting Gigantamaxes, but this one really makes me uneasy. It could look better in game somehow. I don't know how, but I just wish they had gone a different route.
I can't say that I disagree in any way. Honestly, just anything non-gun based would have been much better.
And the other ones are so fantasy-like a giant drum set and a big soccer ball. When you set up those two things of realism, like, it's a big drum kit and it works like a drum kit. It's a real big soccer ball and it works like a soccer ball with an intelligence in it. It's an ice gun.
Okay, so putting aside the whole school theme, I am more surprised that they were willing to give a Pokemon something that looks like a gun, because in Space World demo for Gold and Silver, Remoraid and Octillery looked more like a gun in a tank, and they changed that. So they've had these conversations before, clearly. You can assume. Well, I don't know. We can talk about this forever. I think either two things are going to happen. Either this will be a non-issue. The game will come out. People have already made their jokes about Inteleon. Everyone moves on. Or when the DLC actually drops, and if for whatever reason any parents want to latch onto this, they will specifically latch onto this Pokemon.
Definitely.
So I can see I can see it going two ways. Either no one's going to care when this comes out, and for the most part, this I think overall it's harmless. Like, I think Jinx is pretty harmless at this point, even though it has bad history. Or some parent will hold on to this and they will use this as Pokemon is the devil and it's corrupting our children.
I mean, that's going to happen no matter what. I mean, it is. I mean, there's going to be people who are upset about it. Ultimately, it's like, I don't hate the design. I think it's, it fits well with the theme. I just think if they wanted to avoid controversy at all, they would have picked a different direction.
Yeah.
Like, this is just courting controversy. Like, whether you think it's harmless or not, whether you think it's a water harpoon or not, the fact that we have the conversation is a conversation that I don't think they necessarily want people having about their content and their design.
At minimum, there will be 32 memes made about this, 7
Correct.
of which will actually be funny.
Yeah, I mean,
I already started one, so I already have my joke on Twitter that came from my husband.
And we, like, the three of us who are very deep into Pokemon lore, we can find Pokedex entries that are very dark and very grim.
Oh, yes.
But parents aren't looking for that. They're looking for a screenshot of, look at this Pokemon with a gun.
Right.
Well, those are the 3 Gigantamax.
Yep.
Couple things here. I'm going to read this next part, and then, all right. More past Pokemon available to obtain in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Many Pokemon that didn't appear in Pokemon Sword and Shield make their homes on the Island of Amor or the Crown Tundra. Trainers will meet lively array of diverse Pokemon from newly discovered legendary Pokemon and new regional forms to familiar Pokemon that have been seen living in other regions. Free updates are planned for Pokemon Sword and Shield to coincide with the release of these expansions. Updates are scheduled as the same day of the Island of Amor and Crown Tundra expansions are released. Each update will enable players who have not purchased the expansion pass to receive the Pokemon via the Island of Armor and Crown Tundra expansions through means such as trading. Players will also be able to bring over past Pokemon to games from the cloud service Pokemon Home, scheduled to release in February 2020, as long as those Pokemon appear in the Island of Armor and Crown Tundra. And just to get this out of the way, new outfits, fans will be able to obtain a special training uniform in the Island of Armor. In the Crown Tundra, trainers can don exploration gear, preparing themselves for researching in many trading destinations the Tundra holds. They might find a strange temple where at least to expect it, or a mysterious giant tree growing in a place that it doesn't belong. New outfits. Seems that new hair is also being added. It looks like you can have Rose's hair. That is really exciting. That was actually one of my complaints, is while I do like the character customization in this game, I felt like a lot of people were gravitating towards a set of clothes that looked really cool, or the better hairstyles. It seems that they're adding some new hair and some new clothes, which is nice. Going back to new Pokemon. I think they said 100 new Pokemon for Crown Tundra and then 100 new Pokemon for Armor. So that's 200
they're
new
adding
Pokemon.
200 for sure.
Nice.
I hear some complaints, Greg.
Greg and I certainly don't look at this in the same way.
Nope. So my problem with this is it undermines the arguments that they were making for limiting the decks in the first place. The idea that they were carefully picking ones for that region, and they were doing it for competitive reasons. Like, if they were really doing it for competitive reasons, there's not enough time to see what the current competition is like without adding in more. Like, this is coming in 6 months, and there's no way they've analyzed all the data, figured out what the new meta is, and then decided that these ones are going to help balance that out. So it undermines that. It feels like they're capitulating to the national dectors on some level. Like, you know,
I don't agree with that point, but go on.
Like, hey, we are adding these back. Ta-da! Like they said they weren't, and then here we are. So there's no way to have done this, whether they meant it or not, without giving fuel to those arguments, which I have a huge problem with. Me being the bitter person that I am, I would have released a third with no new Pokemon, like maybe one. Wurmple's in this one now.
I don't know if you could do that.
Choke on it.
So I guess
I hate you because you were all nasty. Like,
did you see that I got the party hat Wurmple? I don't know if you guys did.
No, I have not.
I did.
I certainly did.
I have not gotten it yet. They did specifically say in the Direct that normally we do a third version, and that this content replaces the third version. So
which I also have a problem with.
In the history of third versions, every third version has always added more Pokemon than the game before.
True.
So I don't see it any different in that sense.
I see it. The reason why I see it different is this is a different product. So usually when there's a third version, it's a year and a half later. They have
364 days if it's Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon.
They have changed up the story some. They have added, removed things, and you're getting you're getting the game again with additions. And as a person that likes a lot of the thirds, who often thought a lot of the third versions were a lot better than the first versions,
they are.
We don't know what we're getting.
That's true.
Everybody's like, oh, the DLCs will be great, and it'll be all this great content. Like, we don't know that. We don't know that we're getting more storyline. We don't know what we're getting. We don't know that these are going to bring actual value. We knew they were going to add them in. Adding them in this quickly just sort of undermines a lot of the message that they were giving going into and dealing with that massive, ugly movement. And I feel like it really gives a lot more power to their arguments, which is really unfortunate. And I don't like it that way. I'm very concerned when any large AAA company starts doing DLC, because we already feel like games come out way too quickly. And if DLC is a very acceptable way, it's a lot of games now put out games that are maybe 3/4 done, and they're just going to patch it in and add that content in with the DLC, because that's now expected. And I don't think that that's a good step that any company has taken. And I'm hoping this DLC will be very worth it, that it will feel like you're getting a bunch of new story and a bunch of new content, and there's a lot to do, and it doesn't feel like, hey, we added a new battle tower and we needed a way to shove in more Pokemon, and here you go. So we don't have a great history with DLC. DLC often for a lot of games starts out really strong and then just gets worse and worse and worse because it's seen as a way to sell a half-baked game at full price that you'll patch later with DLC. And I don't have any evidence that this will happen here, but it has happened before. So when a company makes the change to DLC, I get concerned. I get concerned about what their future plans are. I get concerned about their willingness, because all corporations try to do things faster on a shorter time frame. And if they can put out a smaller game every 7 months and then bring out an expansion 6 months after that, like, it's a weird cycle to have started. So this change away from getting a full-baked third game to we're going to start patching things in. If you didn't like third version games, great, this is great for you, but I don't have proof that this is going to be worth that big of a change, and there's a lot of troubling signs around DLCs.
All I want to say is, number one, Volcarona is back. So that shiny bug team I've been working on for the past 2 years is back complete again. And number two, I mean, I don't see it as capitulation. I'm sure that this DLC has been planned and in progress for a long, long time, and we're still not getting a full 800. I also disagree that they're not going to, be able to see the meta. They can tweak the stats on different Pokemon pretty close up to the last minute. If they just need to make something a little more powerful to help balance things out and everything like that, I think they've still got some leeway
but
doing meta balancing.
We just got Gigantamax in the new VGC. Like, they're still working through what they did in the game proper. And this comes out in June.
Yeah. Okay, so to like the VGC part, they are only allowing a specific... Only Gigantamax Pokemon that have been promoted are allowed.
Yeah, and we just got a new wave of promoted.
And those promoted will probably be ready for Season 3, which is really fast already. So Season 1 was no Gigantamax. Season 1 was no Gigantamax. It ended December 31st. Season 2 started June 3rd. And Gigantamax Pokemon are allowed. And I will tell you right now, as somebody who did 80 plus battles in ranked in doubles in Season 1, Season 2 is very different. I have done 20 battles right now, and I have, as somebody who went, I think it was like, I had like 43 wins and like 35 losses, and I made it to Master Ball pretty easily. I can't win a single match with the same team I used in Season 1, because that meta shifted so fast. And it's going to shift again once Season 3 starts, which will be February, and then Season 4 in March. I think that's a good thing to have, because in past Pokemon games, it was always, well, this is Landorus, this is Cresselia, this is Primal Groudon, this is Primal Kyogre, and these have to be on your team. And it doesn't seem, with the exception of Dragapult, it doesn't seem like there is one specific Pokemon. So if their goal is to just keep changing it, I think that's fine. I think you're right of maybe like 6 months is not enough time to do that, but we don't even know what the stats are for Slowking. So if they wanted to boost Slowking's stats like up 10 because they see that there's a dominance in fast poison Pokemon and they think that Slowking would be a good counter, they can do that without us ever knowing that they changed those stats before June comes. Well, I guess technically Slowking is Tundra, not
Tundra. Yeah, I mean, they could. It seems to undermine that message a lot. And And
I don't know. There are so many more people in competitive this time around, and like you're right.
More data means more that you have to look at. Like having more people run it just means there's a lot more data that you have to go through. It doesn't cut the time down.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that they have a team dedicated to that and that all they're doing is looking at that kind of stuff. Like, I am assuming Pokemon they have promoted...
if they don't have a dedicated team to it, then it takes even longer.
Yeah, but I'm assuming that the Pokemon they promoted this time around, they promoted it with the reason to counter things. And again, this is a lot of speculation, but they promoted Lapras, Coalossal, Flapple, and Alcremie. And there was 0 Alcremie and there was 0 Flapple in Season 1, and there are some Appleton and some Alcremie I am now seeing in Season 2, and now that they've promoted those Pokemon, the G-Max form of Alcremie and the G-Max form of Flapple/Appleton will be available probably in Season 3. Maybe that's a coincidence? I don't know. But it seems to be lining up pretty, like, I feel like they've picked those promoted Pokemon because they saw what was being used in Season 1. And now they are preparing for Season 3.
Maybe. I don't know.
But they did do what they said they were going to do, which is focus on competitive. And even the base changes of you can't flinch Gigantamax Pokemon. We're adding room service for the amount of Trick Room teams we see. They added, Wheezing, which everyone thought was going to be really good, but no one's using right now to like disable abilities. I still think that 100 Pokemon is, 100 Pokemon in June and then another 100 Pokemon in November is definitely adding more complexity to that.
And they're bringing back huge ones, like ones that dominated before. Like,
the problem right now is they showed Landorus.
They showed Landorus. They showed
that's disappointing.
Metagross. They showed Garchomp.
But we're assuming that
Crown Tundra brings back a bunch of the legendaries. Like
we're assuming that they're bringing that. Like once June comes, like those Pokemon probably won't be available for battle until August because they said end of June, which means they probably aren't going to start that season. There's no way if it comes out like June 20th. And the game's only out for 10 days, I can't see them saying, like, these 100 Pokemon are going to be available July 1st. I think at soonest they would be available August 1st. So then at that point, you have 10 months of this game existing in a meta before adding 100 new Pokemon. And I think that's fair. I think that's fine.
I don't know that it's fine. Like, I don't know that, because they've taken out so many moves. They restricted a lot of things. I don't know that this time frame is enough to, with all the changes, with all of the G-Max, with all the moves different, with all the new abilities, there's so many moving parts. I don't know that 10 months is enough.
I think 10 months is more than enough if you look at competitive games like Apex or Fortnite where they're changing things, if not once a month, every 2 weeks.
Yeah, but those are, like, these are set. Once something's in this game, like a Pokemon's in this game, they've not ever changed the stats in the middle of the game. Like,
That's
once
true.
It's programmed in, is that it's in.
They
like
could,
Fortnite
though.
And stuff. They
can.
They could.
Can.
I don't know that they will.
I mean, 7 years ago, Masuda said they were never going to do DLC, and that was something we've always brought up on the podcast of like, this is right. Like, I guess I believe the dude who's in charge of Pokemon to say they're never going to do DLC, and now they've done DLC. So I feel like with competitive games, you have to. This is just a general thought. I feel like with all competitive games, you have to make changes to keep competitive fresh. And I don't think what was working before of not changing anything, whether that's adding or removing Pokemon, is good enough to keep people's interest. I mean, if you look at the Pokemon trading card game, they change it every 3 months.
Yeah, but you also have to pay every 3 months.
Well,
like, that's as much of a cash grab as
but the Pokemon trading card game is significantly more successful than the VGC.
It's true.
You always have more people playing the card game, and they're changing that every 3 months. And for whatever reason, they have these 2 weird formats where Japan is playing it ahead of time than...
Yeah. It's just...
They can just straight up ban Pokemon. Like, if Dragapult is too powerful. Nothing is stopping them from banning it.
Yeah.
Have they done that before? No, but that doesn't mean they can't.
That's also like not a great experience.
The one thing I do know about the competitive Pokemon Company is I don't think any of them like Landers.
No, but they're bringing it back. Yeah,
well, it's going to be an incredibly nerfed Landorus.
Yeah, I mean, the stats could be different.
I mean, we don't know. Again, my issue is there's a lot that we just don't know. And there's a lot of signs that worry me. And everybody who's yelling at me on Twitter, like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Great. I'm glad that you're excited. I will be excited once I'm there. But there's enough here to cause me pause. That said, I bought it all. Like, yep, I bought it. I've already paid my money because I'm going to see if it's worth it. And I'm hoping I don't get burned. And I'm hoping it doesn't set up a bad precedent for the future. Like, I'm banking on past history of a lot of companies not coming true here.
I will say I don't know if this is the best solution for Game Freak, but I am very excited that they are trying it. If they try it and fail, at least we can say we tried it. But to like lie to ourselves of being like DLC for Pokemon games were rampant around Gen 5 and Gen 6 and Gen 7. Every single time Pokemon fans were like, this is going to be the game that gets DLC. And those were never the games that got DLC. Like the Pokemon community can't pretend to themselves that they didn't want DLC for the last 10 plus years.
Yeah, but what they think they're getting and what they actually get could be vastly different things. Like everybody
that's always the case with Pokemon games. It's like since day one.
It's also the case with DLC. Like, there's been a ton of DLC that has ruined games. Like, you may want it, but are you sure? Like, the history of DLC ain't great.
So a couple things. I want to go back to adding the Pokemon. They did say that the Pokemon you get in this game are the Pokemon you get in this game. I don't think this is like some weird loophole that they did to add more Pokemon, because one, I don't think you can add a new area of a Pokemon game with a slight new story without adding more Pokemon. If this was, here's a new area with the same old Pokemon, and we're going to add a battle dojo, that would probably not appeal to me, because there is a certain set of the Pokemon audience that want to catch and discover new Pokemon, even if those are Pokemon they've already caught before. That's why when people go through, X and Y or Sun and Moon, they will re-catch the Pokemon over again because they enjoy catching and discovering and finding Pokemon. And then there's a certain set of people that don't want to do that, and they will wait till Pokemon Home comes out, and they will drag and drop all their Pokemon over to instantly complete their Pokedex, and they're fine. But I don't think that they could have done this without adding new Pokemon. Now, I don't think that this was a pivot to National Dexers. I think that this was always planned. The Let's Go team finished their game over a year ago. This game came out. What is that team working on? Was that team working on this? Was it not? I'm assuming it was like all hands on deck for Sword and Shield when they did finish Let's Go. There's like so many thoughts too, because
yeah, I mean, whether they meant it or not, it still slightly comes across that way.
Sure, but
during that entire time when they were getting those lead up, when they kept saying what you get is what you get, they gave no hint or anything like, we are going to add things later, we're going to expand this game. If they were working on it that time, they could have stopped so much of that controversy by saying, we do have plans to deal with this in the future, but we're not going to tell you what that is.
Do you think, though, by announcing... The problem is, announcing this and seeing the people that are excited, the people that are excited because they love Sword and Shield. The people that were against this game, the National Dexers, while they started off being upset because not all the Pokemon were there, these were the same people that got mad when you climbed a ladder, the Pokemon stopped moving. These were the same people that got mad that they didn't believe that the title screen was good enough compared to last Pokemon games.
True.
Those people are out of their minds.
True,
so to say that Sword and Shield's coming. There's 400 Pokemon. We might add Pokemon later. That would have never satisfied them.
Well, we don't. Well, so a lot of the hyper focus on all the details was to underline their starting disappointment. So when you started with the disappointment that you didn't at all address, you gave the doorway wide open for them to start nitpicking everything else to prove their point. Like, it was a chain reaction. It wasn't like, hey, this isn't up to snuff, until they heard that there wasn't going to be everything in there.
But that was a chain reaction to such a small percentage of people. Like, at the start of this podcast, we talked about how this was the fastest selling Pokemon game of all time.
Right.
So you have a very small vocal community complaining and nitpicking these games. And while it doesn't reach the majority of people. It doesn't reach, mom walking into store to buy a new Pokemon game for son for Christmas. It does reach us who deal in the Pokemon community every day. It does
reach that son whether they ask for it or not. Like, that son might be connected to those games. That person might be looking at to say, hey, is this what I want to ask for? Or I have $60 where I can buy one game. Is this it? And then you've got a flood of people online who are very loud and talking down your game. Like, it may not reach the person that bought it, but it's going to reach the person that's deciding whether or not they want to ask for it.
Maybe.
I mean,
the games proved that they sold incredibly well. So, like, how much
it did.
With all that noise, they sold incredibly well.
They did. I'm just not thrilled about anything that gives any credence to the noise. Like,
and you could go back to like 7 years ago where Masuda was saying like there wasn't DLC, and then people being like, well, Masuda lied 7 years ago, there is DLC now.
I mean,
and it's
well, he did lie.
I mean, he was wrong. I mean, when you say you're never going to do something and then you do it, like,
I believe he also said at one point that Pokemon would always be a 2D game.
Yes, he did. But also, it's not even been 5 years ago where almost every game was $60, and now the most popular games in the world are free. Fortnite, Pokemon Go, League of Legends, Dota. Like, these are free games that make more money than $60 games. So sure, at one point DLC was never planned for a Pokemon game, but now it is. I don't know if it's the best way. I don't think that these updates though are like some pivots to satisfy National Dexers. I think that in history, when they added Pokemon Crystal, they added more Pokemon. When they did Emerald, they added more Pokemon. When they did Platinum, they added more Pokemon. When they did Sun and Moon, it was 302 Pokemon. Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon was 400 Pokemon. This is 400 Pokemon. I think adding 100 Pokemon, which in reality is not that many Pokemon, because six of those Pokemon are the Nidoran family, and no one's using Nidoran. No one's using Nidorina or Nidorina. So I guess out of those 6, you're using 2. Nidoqueen, Nidoking. So like 100 Pokemon is not a lot. I don't think this also leads to them adding the rest of the Pokemon. Because I do still think that initial thing of we're not adding all the Pokemon, what you get is what you get. I still think that stands by it. I don't think exploring like a new beach region and not seeing new Pokemon would be particularly interesting, but because there is now a beach, there are Pokemon like Slowpoke, maybe Psyduck, that would probably exist on this beach. In the winter area, there will probably be Pokemon like Metagross, who is normally in the icy areas of game, or at least Metagross was in the icy area of Black and White 2. That will probably exist. These Pokemon aren't behind a paywall, which is nice. Which was like some weird narrative that people started stirring up of like, oh, you have to pay $30 to get these 200 Pokemon. No, that's not true. You just have to update your game. Once you update the game, you can either transfer those Pokemon from Black and White 2 or X and Y through Pokemon Home into these games, or you can trade if you don't want to pay for Pokemon Home. If assuming that costs money, you can trade with somebody who did catch a Slowpoke or a Psyduck and trade it to you. But I think that this is, I definitely 100% want this over a third version.
And as I told you before, I'm hoping that they do it like they do with Destiny, where it's like a main game, and then 2 subsequent DLCs, and then another main game, and they alternate that way. And I think that's a really nice way to kind of keep interest in the game and keep it progressing. And then you just like have a big bump, and then here's 2 new things to keep you interested as you go, and then you're a big bump, and you keep going like that.
I'm actually very curious, because if you look at like the sales of Sun and Moon specifically, that game sold like 16 million copies. And then if you look at Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, that game sold 8 million copies. That's a lot of copies. Mm-hmm. Even the 8 million, there's a lot of video games that, struggle to even sell 1 million or 2 million. So 1 million copies, automatically awesome. If you go back to Sun and Moon, and if you say like, man, I wish this game was better polished, I wish they would have taken a year extra on Sun and Moon, do I think an extra year of waiting makes that 16 million copies go up further? I don't think so. I think that you put out a game, you sell 16 million, you put out an enhanced version of that game, and you sell another 8 million. That's pretty good. That's a lot of money to put out a rehashed version of your new game. I also think, though, that becomes like some weird issue where I would never recommend Sun and Moon to anyone, because Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon or Platinum or Emerald are significantly better games. Once you put enough time into those games, it's very hard to go back. Like for me, it's very hard to go back to Sun and Moon, because I already caught all the Pokemon in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I already went out of my way to get all the TMs. I already bought all the clothes. I have 999 Lepa berries. I have all these Rotom boosts. And Sun and Moon offers none of that. And I think there's probably some part of the audience that expects a third version. So it's like, why would I buy Diamond and Pearl? Platinum will be the better version. I'll wait for that. It will have more Pokemon. It will have more features. It will fix issues. The same with Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Why would I buy Sun and Moon when this is the better version? And I do think that's why those games sell well. And obviously Pokemon fans, they want just more Pokemon, so they'll buy it anyways. But in this sense, I feel really good and really comfortable investing even more time into these games, because I don't have that feeling of starting over. I have shook these berry trees, and I hate the berry trees in Sword and Shield. I think they're awful. It is not a fun mechanic to like shake
Agreed.
And wait and see.
Nope.
But I have shook them every day to get my berries, because I don't know when I'm going to need like 20 Fafa berries in order to reduce my happiness to fix my EVs.
There are no Fafa berries.
But it puts this confidence in me that the things I am doing every day, like the Alcremie sweets, the berries, collecting the watts, having the money, that I don't lose all of that by starting over again, and I can comfortably continue playing these games and get more content, and that is a good feeling. I don't mind starting over. That has never bothered me. Like when Sun and Moon came out, I was excited to catch all the Pokemon. When X and Y came out, I was excited to catch all the Pokemon, even though I have those Pokemon. There is a point where starting over feels great. I don't think starting over once a year particularly feels great, especially in the past where the story's like slightly different. And yeah, it was cool that they added like Magnemite and stuff. I think Magnemite was in Ultra, not in regular. But if you don't add the new Pokemon,
no, I agree.
Then you just get like Rainbow Rocket, and it was like, well, that was like 2 hours and that was cool, but I don't know if Rainbow Rocket was worth $40.
I mean, we don't know that this is going to be worth $30. I will say, as a third version player, usually when the third version came out, I would want to play the game again. And since I don't like deleting my old games, I want to keep what I caught there and be able to pass things through, and I can pass items that I already got to make that playthrough easier, and I can play it the way that I want. I always enjoyed the third version when it came out, because I was usually wanting to play the game over again, and I could customize it the way that I wanted from the beginning. So not having that anymore is a disappointment to me, because I don't get to have that experience of a third version that incorporates everything that's changed the story along the way that we've had in the past. So I am mournful that is gone. I understand that I am very much in the minority of that, but I did really always like the third version. So I will miss that. I also think the high praises that everybody's singing for something that's not out yet, isn't necessarily warranted.
Well, it's okay to be excited.
It's
for
okay to
something
be
that's not
excited,
out.
but like people are like absolutely bonkers about how this is going to be completely worth the money and it's absolutely everything that they wanted. I'm like, it's not even out yet. How do you
This is why I don't go on the internet. I just live in my own little bubble.
I think it's super exciting. I think why that excitement has blown up is because what they showed actually looked great. All the concept art looked gorgeous. Like the beach art, the like the like building with the tree coming out of it in the mountainside looks great. I think it was that same. So before the whole National Dex news broke, I think everyone was excited for Sword and Shield because of how it looked visually. And for the most part, if you put the National Dex stuff aside and the Pokemon not moving when you're on a ladder for the 4 ladders in that game.
There's a lot of ladders in Area 8.
Yeah,
that is
that's
4.
True.
You're up and down those ladders a whole lot.
Route 8 is chutes and ladders.
I think that Galar is one of the most beautiful regions they've ever made.
Yes.
So I do think that I think it's very easy to be excited for this. The question is it worth $30?
Yep.
And that will never be answered because some people, like if you look at like a game if you look at a game such as Firewatch or Gone Home, those games are $20 games that are 2 hours long, and a lot of people don't think that that's worth it. Whereas like a game such as Destiny, maybe that's a bad example, but you could put 100 hours into Destiny for $60. Well, I guess Destiny's a free to play game.
Or you could pay $60 for Overwatch and play it for 5 minutes and realize you hate it. My experience.
So like that argument of is the $30 worth it? That's going to be different for like every person.
Yeah, I mean but no, I mean there are going to be some, like if it's just another wild area that really adds nothing to the game, I think a majority of people will be like, this definitely wasn't worth the price. Like there's definitely, if it doesn't deliver enough on the promise that it's showing here, then people are going to say, no, that was not the value that I wanted. Like, opinions will vary. Like, you will decide how much value that you got out of it. But if it is just a nothing area, then I think a lot of people are going to be like, no, that definitely wasn't worth it. Like, if the gameplay that they add isn't fun, if it is just a great big wide area with nothing else in there, if it's just a small wild area with a couple of dens, like there's a lot of ways that this can go wrong. And I do agree that what value you get out of it is your own personal opinion, but there is definitely a way that a game cannot deliver for the price point that everybody can agree on that didn't deliver for how much I paid for it.
Yeah.
And it's also going to be tough because it's divided in 2. And so you kind of have to say, I'm paying $15 for one and $15 for the other.
Right.
And they're spread out. So it's going to be a very hard.
The advantage they have there, though, is you have to buy both. So if somebody came into the Island of Armor and they were like, oh, this wild area is small and disappointing and not great, and I don't like the dojo stuff because maybe it's battle heavy and the new clothes do nothing for me, they could walk away from that extremely disappointed, but I don't think that disappointment would be strong enough for them to be like, I'm just going to skip the Crown Tundra, because they've already paid for the Crown Tundra.
I mean, there's a lot of people who, I mean, Will can do this, who are like, I played 5 minutes of it, it wasn't worth me, and I'm not touching it again.
I bought DLC for Mario Kart and never played it.
Yeah.
At all.
Like,
so
it is definitely a possibility that if the first one doesn't come out of the gate hot, that people are like, well, I already wasted my money and I do not want to play this game anymore.
Sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
Okay. So the differences between the two: Island of Armor will be a new area.
Yep.
We'll have new Pokemon, 100 of them, according to Pokemon.com. We'll have new clothing, and we'll have handy features, items, and more. I don't know what those are. I don't know if that's like...
Yep.
I think to some people, if they added mass releasing of Pokemon, through breeding, I feel like to those people that is worth $30.
Nah, I suspect that since it's a fighting focused, that it will be things that will make like breeding and preparing teams for doing any kind of BGC type battling will be made much easier.
I personally would pay $30 if they had an inverse bottle cap where I could make any Pokemon's speed stat 0 IVs for Trick Room teams. Because breeding for 0 IV Trick Room Pokemon is the worst experience ever. But it's different for everyone. But that's what part 1 says it's including. Part 2 says it's including a new area, new Pokemon, 100 new Pokemon, a new co-op play feature, which we talked about was actually walking around in the dens you go into, and new clothing items and more. Part 1 has clothing items as a bullet point and handy features items and more as a bullet point. This just has clothing items and more as a bullet point. So I don't exactly know what that is.
Oh, I'm sure the walking around the dens is going to be really, like, that's an extensive bit of programming. So that's why they couldn't do a bunch of other stuff.
I think maybe it's obvious, but we're not getting like a 2020 Pokemon game.
We are getting one. It's called Mystery Dungeon.
Sure. They spent 3 years on Sword and Shield. I don't know when Sword and Shield got finished. I don't know if that was like August or September or like right up to the point. Because that game didn't ship with an update. So what was there when it came out? And it's been 2 months since it came out. And they have 5 more months before the next update came out. And they're using the same engine. So with specifically Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, that game came out in 364 days, less than a year, using the same engine, and they were able to deliver that game. Timeline-wise, I don't think that this seems rushed. I don't feel like this was content that was hidden in the game that they cut to sell back to us.
Oh, no, not at all. And I don't like people making that argument. I've seen people make that argument. I think that if this DLC had never been announced or didn't exist, that Sword and Shield are the same level of Pokemon game you've always gotten before. The story is there. There's supposedly post-game I haven't seen, but there's nothing about these that are less than a typical Pokemon game where it would indicate that they cut stuff out for whatever purpose, for creating the DLC. So I don't want to see that argument.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this one is, but I don't want to see that in the future. And that's a concern.
See what in the future?
What we see with a lot of games where they do cut stuff to sell you back because DLC isn't accepted. Like, there's an inherent danger with this DLC in that they can fall into the trap that other companies have, where they cut stuff from games and sell it back to you. And that is my prime concern around any DLC anything. And I have that concern here.
I think the Breath of the Wild DLC was very well received.
I know one of them was. I know another one. Didn't they have 2?
They had
like
2.
One people
loved, and
one people were like, really?
And I'm sure there are people that have, like the conversation we had with Will's friends last week. They played through the game. They saw the credits. They were satisfied with their $60. They will not buy this, not because they don't think it's worth it. They just are playing other games and they don't need more Pokemon in their life at this point in time.
Yep, they've moved on.
And on the flip side, my husband, who's never played a lot of Pokemon game, bought the expansion pass. So we'll see.
Let's take a break.
Because we've been going forever.
This is a long episode. All right. We will be right back with our question of the week and our Pokemon of the week. Be right back.
Ooh. Ooh.
Little bit more here. New characters. We didn't talk about this. A man named Mustard will appear in the Island of Armor and will be responsible for players' training. He's a legendary trainer who held the seat of champion for 18 years, back when Dynamax incorporated into battles of the Pokemon League. His record has yet to be beaten. In fact, champion Leon himself trained under Mustard, and Mustard was the first one to recognize Leon's talent. So there you go. There's some lore, some history here, which is cool.
Clue Pokemon crossover confirmed.
Yep.
There are 2 new rivals that appear in the Island of Armor, Clara and Avery. They are skilled trainers.
Clara did it in the dojo with a Yapapa berry.
Yep.
Okay. They are skilled trainers of Poison-type Pokemon and Psychic-type Pokemon, respectively, and they're training hard so they can someday set up a gym and stadium of their own type. Trainers will face different rivals depending on which game they're playing. Clara will specialize in Poison-type Pokemon and is training hard at Mustard's dojo. She'll do just about anything to appear adorable and cute, as popularity is what she admires the most of all. That's me in a nutshell. I try to appear adorable and cute, and I aim for popularity.
You're only in it for the popularity.
That's true, yeah. Throwback.
Sell out.
She goes about her days with a smile on her face, but is hiding behind it is a calculating nature that she puts to very good use. Avery is one of the trainers who strive to become stronger at Mustard's dojo, and he is a proficient user of psychic Pokemon. He is gentlemanly and well-mannered, but is also very proud.
And has sweet socks.
There was a little bit of people talking about how maybe Avery is non-binary, but doesn't seem to be the case according to this press release.
Yeah, which is a missed opportunity.
New features added in the Island of Armor and Crown Tundra. There are over 100... Wait, what? There will be over 100 new clothing items added in the island. That's actually way more. Well, I mean, are they
but
counting?
I already have a gray hoodie sweatshirt. What more do I need?
They add one hoodie and then add 20 colors to it. And they call it.
Well,
in the Island of Armor and the Crown Tundra. In the Island of Armor, trainers will also find new items that will help along their journey, such as the Experience Charm that will come in handy while leveling up their new Pokemon. New tutor moves that have never been available in the past Pokemon Core Series game will also appear in the Island of Armor expansion, along with restricted sparring, where trainers will be limited to what types of Pokemon they can be used and forced to battle under set conditions. In the Crown Tundra expansion, trainers and their friends will be able to enter and explore dens in a new gameplay feature. Deep inside these dens, they will have a chance to encounter legendary Pokemon from previous Pokemon core game series. So, for example, they showed new forms of Articuno, Moltres, and Zapdos, and they've shown old legendary Pokemon returning, such as the Reggies and...
Well, the Reggies had new forms also.
Yeah,
that's true.
Or are they new forms, or are they new Reggies?
They could be new Reggies.
Cool for me. They looked great.
I can't tell if that was sarcasm.
No, I'm excited for them.
Regielektric and Regieleki.
Yveltal.
Reggie, what is it? Registeel is already one. So what would this one be? Regidragon?
Regired. Many
I don't know what
Pokemon
that means, but
not
sure.
found in the Galar wild area will make their home on the Island of Armor or Crown Tundra. Trainers will have their Galar Pokedexes updated so they can register even more Pokemon as they discover. In the Island of Armor, players will aim to complete the Isle Armor Pokedex, while in Tundra, they will be working on the Crown Tundra Pokedex. So because these are separate Pokedexes, they're not going to take away your shiny charm. I don't know why people are worried about that. In what reality would they be like, well,
it doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't work.
Turned off.
I am assuming there will probably be a reward for completing these two, but who knows?
The Ultra Shiny charm?
Yeah.
So you can finally get your Ultra Shinies?
There are Pokemon dens on the Island of Armor and Crown Tundra, just like in the wild area. When trainers check out the den that has a pillar of red light coming out of it, they will be able to participate in a max raid battle. There are battles where players will be able to team up with 300 trainers to take on Dynamax Pokemon. In the Pokemon dens of the Island of Armor and Crown Tundra, trainers will be able to encounter Pokemon that are not found in the wild area. They will be able to invite their friends to join these max raid battles, and just not friends who are playing using the Pokemon Sword Expansion Pass or Shield Expansion Pass. Players will be able to invite to have friends even if they are playing Sword and Shield without the expansion pass to join them. So that answers that question for people. So not only can you get all 200 new Pokemon without paying, you can also participate in these new max raid dens without paying. Which is...
Yeah, but it's locked behind a paywall, so...
One person pays and then everyone else benefits.
Exactly.
There was
which of you is going to pay?
Greg, you already paid, so we'll benefit off you.
So I'll expect checks in the mail for your thirds.
Okay. We talked about the 1.1 updates with the sneak peek. If you purchase the pre-order early, you will get the outfits. We talked about that.
They're kind of ugly.
Let's save all the mystery dungeon stuff till next week. There's actually a lot here for the mystery dungeon stuff, and I don't want to just, as much as I'm not a mystery dungeon fan, I don't want to give it a disservice. I think that the fact that a spin-off game didn't come out on mobile is actually a big deal. So we'll save all the mystery dungeon stuff for next week. There is a new, so to finally get away from all the DLC Pokemon news, I think we covered it all. There is a new online competition called the Galar Newcomers. You can sign up until January 30th. We'll go more in depth on that next week. But just like everyone who missed the signups for the first period, just sign up now. You don't have to register your team until the competition starts. So we'll get that out of the way. I do want to talk about this, though. But the Pokemon Company also announced changes to the TCG. And I wanted...
Big changes that I don't understand.
Big changes.
I don't play it.
This was unexpected. They didn't talk about this in the Direct. They just posted on Pokemon.com. No one ever checks Pokemon.com. That's why we got to read it. So the new Sword and Shield TCG starts February 7th, 2020. It will have 200 Pokemon cards. It will introduce VMAX Pokemon and Pokemon V cards. Make your jokes now. There's a couple big changes. I think Will will have some good insight here, and Greg will be like, why did they make these changes?
Yeah, why did they make these? Because that's true. Why did you do this?
Okay, these are huge changes, which I think goes back to our conversation of maybe them. I know Greg and I disagree on the competitive stuff, but these are pretty unheard of changes in the TCG, which is why I'm thinking they will make some dramatic changes in the video game.
Is the donk back?
The donk is not back.
Okay.
In fact,
the donk will never be back.
In fact, it's even harder to donk. So the first change here is first turn. At the start of X and Y series, a rule was introduced to prevent a player from attacking on their first turn. Starting February 21st, 2020, the date that the Pokemon TCG becomes legal for tournament play, there is an additional restriction. The player who goes first cannot play a supporter card on their first turn. This change is to attempt to make it less of an advantage to go first. Some strategies may benefit when a player goes second, but others might not work out if a player goes first. We hope this results in interesting choices in both gameplay and deck building. Please note that the Pokemon TCG pre-release events will be played using these rules.
Nice. I like that one.
So, Will, do you want to explain real quick just what a supporter card is and why it's important that you can't play it now?
So a supporter is typically represented by a NPC from the Pokemon world. You can only play one per turn, so they usually have a more powerful effect. I mean, the good ones. There are always bad supporters out there, but the other thing is there is a lot of supporters that do things to your opponent. So if you're playing one on your first turn and doing things to your opponent that has just gotten set up when they haven't even had a chance to play at all yet, that's really unfair. Like, you could play an N on your first turn and cause your opponent to have to just reshuffle in their hand in and lose one card, which is just mean if they were looking forward to having a good turn, and now all of a sudden they can't have that turn that they were planning for anyways. So I like that one.
I think before the X and Y change, which was what X and Y was
2014,
7 years, 6 years ago, or 5 years ago. There was a statistic that said that obviously, just I'm pretty sure it was if you went first, you were 80% likely to win the game in the Pokemon trading card game, statistically. And then when they changed it so you couldn't attack on your first turn, that dramatically reduced that statistic. Because back in the day, there used to be a donk. So if you went first and you were able to play a supporter on your first turn and attack on your first turn, you were able to knock out your opponent before they even were able to play, and you would win the game. That was very, very popular back in the black and white series. The donk. Okay, this is another big change, although it doesn't seem that big when I'm reading it, but it's actually super important. Weakness and resistance. So for over a decade, all the way back to the Diamond and Pearl series, resistance always meant that a Pokemon would take 20 less damage from the listed type. However, Pokemon introduced in Pokemon Sword and Shield will have a resistance of -30 instead of -20. So for example, Zacian V has a resistance of -30 to Grass-type Pokemon. Any Pokemon in a previous series will have a -20 resistance, will be continued to be treated that way, following what's written on the card. So you might think, oh, that's not a big deal. They've only changed it from 20 to 30. What does 10 damage actually mean? 10 damage makes and breaks a lot of Pokemon trading card games.
It does.
Let me ask the questions. Don't ask these questions for me. I have one job.
Oh, sorry, Greg. Ask the question.
Jeez. What difference does 10 damage make? That doesn't seem like a lot.
So 10 damage is a lot. So specifically in the Black and White series, I think this is the easiest to understand. There were two very dominant Pokemon that had 130 HP. But the problem is almost all the Pokemon in that game did 120 damage. So it was very hard to knock out any of these Pokemon because the threshold of damage was 120, and a lot of Pokemon had 130 HP. There were Pokemon that could do more than 120 damage, but it was a lot harder to do that. Most games are won by either one-shotting a Pokemon or two-shotting a Pokemon.
Yeah, because there's always multipliers and everything like that. So that's what you have to keep in mind.
So does this deal, we've talked about it before, but does this deal with the power creep in an effective way? Does it deal with the HP creep in an effective way?
Whether it's going to be effective is TBD. But
okay,
I think it
is
is
your initial impression that it will be, or is it
I think it's a way
enough?
of addressing it? Yes, I think it's a way of addressing it.
I also think that they've done a bad job at making resistance matter. For the most part, even if something had resistance, which wasn't as common as you would think, you were doing so much damage anyway that it didn't matter. We'll have to see how many new cards are focused around resistance. And there might be more resistances because they are now changing weakness as well. So weakness is the same, except they are changing matchup types, which is actually huge. So traditionally, let me read it what's happening, and then I'll go back to traditionally. Water type Pokemon were weakness to lightning instead of grass. Psychic type Pokemon have a weakness to darkness instead of psychic. And dark Pokemon will now be weak to grass instead of fighting. Which
makes sense.
Yes, this is really weird. So what they're saying is water type Pokemon were traditionally always weak to grass. There were exceptions to that, but now they're saying the primary amount of water Pokemon cards that will exist will be weak to lightning instead of grass. There will probably be exceptions. Psychic type Pokemon were almost always weak to psychic. So if it was Mewtwo versus Mewtwo, which is a very popular matchup because Mewtwo cards are normally very good, Mewtwo would always be weak to each other. And now they're changing it so Psychic type Pokemon are weak to Dark type Pokemon. But Dark type Pokemon were always weak to fighting, but now they're changing Dark type Pokemon to be weak to grass, which I guess technically makes sense because water will no longer be weak to grass.
So, and just for Greg's understanding.
Yeah, why grass? That's not a thing in the game.
Grass is bug and grass.
And
psychic.
Poison was grass or psychic.
No. Poison was psychic, and before psychic was psychic, ghost, and poison. So that's why psychic was weak to psychic.
Fighting was also fighting rock and ground.
Yes.
So now here's one of the biggest changes ever. The fairy type, which was introduced in the X and Y series, will no longer be supported in Sword and Shield series.
I feel bad for fairy types.
I don't. Just because fairy was on its own and it was being weird and it never should have happened.
Yeah.
Rude. They like being alone. Don't treat your introverts like that.
Pokemon that were fairy types in the video game series will now generally be represented as psychic type Pokemon in the Pokemon TCG. To maintain balance, Pokemon that are poison in the video games will now be represented as dark type Pokemon instead of psychic type. For the time being, basic fairy energy can still be used in the standard format, but this rule may be changed in the future. So let's kind of back up here. When the Pokemon trading card game first came out, there was grass, fire, water, lightning, psychic, fighting, and colorless. And then when they added dark and steel to the video game, they then added darkness and metal to the TCG. And that remained pretty unchanged until they were like, let's add dragon type to the Pokemon.
Dragon wasn't too bad because it didn't have its own energy. It always just relied on a combination of other energies.
Right. So when they added dragon, which was a big deal, they didn't add dragon. Well, they added dragon energy, but it was like a special energy. It was no basic energy.
Yeah.
And dragon, for the most part, was just weak to dragon, like the video game was. And then they added fairy, and they made dragon weak to fairy. And they made some dark Pokemon weak to fairy, but not all dark Pokemon were strong to psychic, because psychic was usually weak to psychic. But then also some dark Pokemon were weak to fighting. So if anything, all fairy really did was make dark Pokemon be in this weird spot, and made dragons be in a weird spot. And then, like, fairy was only weak to, for the most part, metal, because poison Pokemon were classified as psychic, but fairy was never weak to psychic. So you have this type, which was supposed to make the game more fun, but instead it just made pretty much all dragon Pokemon pretty useless, and it didn't actually benefit metal Pokemon. Like, you would think, like, oh, well, you just counter fairy with metal, but metal was still never really good, because metal was also weak to fire, and some were weak to fighting. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain because there's always exceptions to that. You could always look at a card and you could be like, well, this one's weak to something, but it added this weird, not like loophole. It just, you would think you're adding a mechanic to make the game more fun. And I don't think Fairy ever felt like, oh boy, this is even more fun now that we're playing with Fairy.
Well, I mean, my first Xerneas deck was, and then it wasn't fun anymore.
Thumbs up, thumbs down from both of you. Thumbs up, Fairy going away good.
Oh, thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up. This actually makes me really excited to
the game. Yeah,
play it. I still don't like the best 2 out of 3 that they have. Like, I understand the best 2 out of 3 because sometimes you can get caught off guard by a deck, but now that you know how the deck works, you have such a good advantage to maybe counter that the next time you play. It's just Pokemon TCG games take way too long. And so when you're in a tournament setting of okay, it's best 2 out of 3 and you lose the first match and that was a 25-minute game, you have 20 minutes to try to tie it, and then you have this third game that's going to go to time, so you might as well just flip a coin of who wins, because it's who's going to go first and who's going to get set up faster, and we only have 3 turns.
You're going to get disqualified.
But you know what I mean. Ideally, the smart play to do would be okay, I'm losing, so I'm going to scoop right away within the first 10 minutes so I can get a better second game in, so I can get a strong third game in. But inherently, they could still drag out that second game, so you can't even get a strong third game in. And the Pokemon VGC has built-in timers, and those games go much faster. So even if like the time limit was 45 minutes, the timer in the game is 15 minutes locked. So you can fit 3 games in 45 minutes. Or at most, you're going to win 2 games at most in 30 minutes. So you get 15 minutes to like recoup before the next match. And that's to say if your game is going to 15 minutes. So I still think an inherent problem with the TCG is how long it takes, which I don't know if the new cards will make those games feel faster and still fun. But I think removing fairy type is good. I think it's fine. And then I think ideally you see more dragon, and you probably still don't see more metal, but metal is, it's whatever. Metal is whatever. Like, I don't know how you save metal at this point. But sure. I mean, it'll exist. I'm trying to think if there was any actually really good metal decks, and I can't think of one right now.
Reggie Steele had like a half second in the sun.
Yeah. I think Melmetal had a quarter of a second in the sun for the most part. There's some other changes. They've changed some cards specifically for expanded, like Lumberry, Palpad, Citrus Berry, Quick Ball. Those were changed. There's now a new term called Pokemon Checkup, which replaces the phase between turns. After a player completes a turn, you will enter the checkup phase. You will check for special conditions in this order: poison, burned, asleep, and paralyzed. You will check abilities that happen during the checkup phase. It's pretty much just an extra step to make sure everyone's doing what they should be doing. They've changed some regulation marks. They've changed some text removal reminders of like, hey, make sure you check if it says before you attack or after you attack, or they will probably start writing cards with during the checkup phase on them. In Black and White, they started using the term heal. For example, it would say heal 30 damage from your Pokemon. Prior to that, it would say remove 3 damage counters from your Pokemon. In Sword and Shield, a similar term will be introduced. Going forward, this term will be called recover. So the Pokemon Center lady has been updated in Sword and Shield to say heal 60 damage from one of your Pokemon, and it will recover all special conditions. It will still have the same effect, but it is now renamed as recover. Yeah, big changes. Very, very unexpected. I think very positive changes. But we'll see. There's a bunch of Pokemon Go news. New Pokemon got added to Pokemon Go. We'll talk about that next week. There was a new movie preview for Japan. We'll talk about that next week.
We could probably talk about a lot of things next week because this is really long.
Yeah. Gabe sent in the TCG stuff, so thank you. Kevin sent in the movie stuff, so thank you. Brandon sent in the Build-A-Bear stuff. No, thank you. Question of the week, Greg.
All right, ready? If you don't ask the snow, you will never ask it again. We are just here waiting for the question of the week.
I don't know that one.
Name that tune. It's a new game.
I can't. I don't know it. I don't recognize
I know.
it.
Well, we'll leave it for everybody else. Go.
Okay.
Ask the question.
In a world that now has Pokemon DLC, and given what we've seen so far, what would you like to see in the DLC that has not been seen?
An actual storyline.
Like, how good a story are we talking? Like Rainbow Rocket, or better than that?
I would. So if there's something like Rainbow Rocket actually had a fairly okay story, but they just sort of stopped it. I would like to see a similar storyline along those, but that maybe gave me, I don't know, 5 extra hours of storyline content to go through. That's what I want. I would like an actual reason for Rose doing anything that he did, or more lore stuff, or an exploration of what happened to the two heroes, why they dropped down to one. All those unanswered questions I would like tied up
Oh, yeah.
in plot lines. Like, give me conclusions to those stories. Have Hop starting research with Sonia to find more answers. Like, if I get 5 hours of that in each, like, hey, we found out in this Tundra, this is, the king Pokemon, and this is how this changes everything. Like, if I got 5 hours of storyline that sort of tied off a lot of those ends, I'd be happy.
Will, what do you want?
Ability to change my Pokeballs to different Pokeballs. I don't know. I mean, there's so much that this game can do for me at this point still that the field is open. I'm just looking for an enjoyable adventure. Maybe, I would say contests, once again, something different, a different way to compete that's not battling, but obviously I don't think we're going to see that. So
I would like to also see, like, maybe more brand new Pokemon too. That'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Like, more Galarian forms or more actual just Galarian Pokemon. Like, we got a hint of a few of that, but if there are like 5 more to the Pokedex, I would be probably happy with that too.
Yeah.
What do you want, Steve?
I was serious. I mentioned it earlier. I was serious about like a reverse bottle cap. The mints, the bottle caps, like they've made everything easy for breeding. Like that is true that you could find a max den raid for Mudsdale, catch said Mudsdale, level it pretty easily with candy, give it a mint if it's the wrong nature, and then bottle cap what you need to, and it's good to go, and that is super fast, and probably what people want. But you cannot do that at all if you're making a Trick Room team. There's just, like, having 31 having perfect speed stat is the opposite of what you want. And if it was, like, even if you weren't running a Trick Room team, like, having a 31 in physical attack on a Chandelure is not great. 1, because you're not going to use it, and 2, you're probably going to get foul played, which is a very popular dark type move that is used in competitive, and foul play is based off of your physical attack. So Chandelure with a high physical attack there's like a difference between foul play killing you in 2 turns and foul play killing you in 3 turns. So they've made it easy to get competitive Pokemon ready, unless you were dependent on having slow Pokemon. And there is a reason why you would want Pokemon to be slow besides Trick Room, or to have a lower attack. Because even if your attack was high, that would mean you would take more confusion damage. So again, any like special Pokemon does not need a high attack just because of confusing being a status condition. So if they had a bottle cap that made your IVs 0, I think that would be the final tool for somebody building competitive things. I don't know if I'm missing anything else. It would be very nice to have a new shiny hunting method in the game. I don't know if they would be so bold to do that. I think that the shiny hunting in this game is... I talked about this before on Twitch, but when I'm shiny hunting in this game, all shiny hunting is boring. Let me get that out of the way. I just feel like I wish I was doing something else, because the other things to do in Sword and Shield are more fun. Like when everyone recently this past week was getting different flavors of Alcremie, I was like, man, that seems way more fun than to be riding my bike in a circle or knocking out 500 Maractus. I do like the fact that the catch method rewards you permanently. And I think with Pokemon games, it's always a marathon, not a sprint. So if you're knocking out, 30 Cramorant a day, within 2 months, your Cramorant's shiny chance will be permanent forever, and you will probably run into 1 Cramorant a day in the future. So I do like that. I just think that method will be more rewarding in 6 months than it is right now. And so to give players maybe something else, like a third option would be kind of nice. But again, I don't think it's a fault to the shiny hunting in the game. I think shiny hunting is always inherently boring. I just think that Sword and Shield has done a good job of making you care about other things. Like, hey, we promoted Pokemon this week in Max Raid Dens. Maybe you should do them. Or, hey, we're starting a new Galar tournament at the end of this week. Or, hey, Season 2 started and you can earn bottle caps by participating. I think it's done a very good job of doing that. And I think it's going to do a very good job in June, where it's like, hey, we have a whole new area for you to explore. Are you sure you want to spin in a circle for the next 5 days hatching eggs? So that's what I think I would like to see. Yeah, bottle caps and maybe like a new shiny hunting method in the game. Will, Pokemon of the week.
All right, last week's Pokemon of the week, it was a poem. I'll read it again. In the matter of finding our Pokemon creatures, particular aspects we must reconcile. Their name, their species, abilities quite surely, but also the route where they domicile. In Unova on 4 and 18, if you're lucky, you'll see this week's eating a Yapapa berry. In Kalos, in hordes on Route 5, there are many, practicing to intimidate, to appear very scary. On our return to Hoenn, we traveled quite far, to 113, and then we must look very closely. This week's Pokemon can only be found if it peeks out its head, perhaps to be nosy. While visiting Alola, our first trip, no dice. Yet on our return, without too much luck, we discovered some boys before the Red Meadow and some girls near the town with a broken-down truck. Grand Galar with its castles, its curries, its camps, appears to have 2 routes we can place. The mystery Pokemon, Motostoke Outskirts is 1, and Galar Mine number 2 it does grace. One last bit of advice, if you would be so keen to find a species member with the ability stated, travel to the wild area, peer into a den. If it's in a max raid, you'll be quite elated. All right, who's that? So easy. Who's the Pokemon?
It's Scolipede.
Well, you got part of it right.
It's Scraggy.
It's Scraggy. Scolipede is not even in Galar. As far as I know.
No, it's not.
Well, not yet.
Not yet. For $30 though, maybe.
Yeah, behind the paywall you'll get it.
Scraggy has no trivia about it.
It
What?
does too.
That is
Scraggy
not true.
appears to be based on a sort of lizard. In addition, with
That's
its
not
molted
trivia,
skin
that's the
pants,
origin.
Scraggy
Oh.
seems to encapsulate stereotypes of youth subcultures, particularly hip hop or punk.
Well,
Ash had a
Scrappy's
Scraggy.
got the mohawk. Ash did have a Scraggy.
It hatched in
Scrappy
the
and
egg.
baggy.
It always used to hit its head on things. It was very cute.
Shuffle icon's pretty good. I honestly can't tell the difference between the shiny.
Oh, it's one of those, is it?
Yeah, I'm look. Oh, is it just that it's a slightly darker orange?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious in Sword and Shield. The 3DS had
Oh, is
very bad color differences.
True.
Yeah, it's a lot darker.
Oh, okay.
Will, I guess
Okay.
next week's.
Something a little different for you. Although I'll be in Texas next week, so people are going to have 2 weeks to chew on this one. Previous to science identifying that we live in a deterministic universe, the ancients believed that gods or demigods set out the path that human lives would take. The apportioners in Greece, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, or the Scandinavian Norns, for example, Uror, Veranti, and Skuld. Verdandi, mispronounced that one. In Indo-European descendant cultures, fates are typically represented as 3. There is a resident of Annie Star City that frequently speaks of fate. In video game, manga, and anime alike, they frequently speak of what is to come as a warning so that hopefully the foreseen can be changed. They also present a trinity. Sigilith, with the ability Magic Guard, Slowking with the ability Oblivious, and Meowstic female with the ability Infiltrator. While Annistar City is known for its large sundial, this week's individual is known for 2 items. First, they wear a cloak with a star-filled pattern print, as zero gravity is said to promote psychic power. Second, they have a bracelet large enough for 2 wrists. It has been said that if you place your wrist within this bracelet, our individual can see what your future holds in store. In the strange twisting of time that occurred around the Mega Evolution special, they were able to prepare Kalos for the potential calamity of the battle between Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre. They also had insight into the eventual disposition of Squishy before the series completion. In the TCG, this individual has a card that works much like the card Switch, except it also heals the benched Pokemon for 30. See, I used heals like we did in Black and White days. All right, that's it.
That's it. That's our show. A super long one.
Yeah, oofda.
Didn't expect this. I was like, hey, if we cover no news, we'll get through it all in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That didn't work. That's okay though. We'll be back next week. I started
back next week with a half an hour episode.
There was a couple people asking for the podcast to go on YouTube. We've done this song and dance before. I actually looked at my YouTube earlier and I was like, oh wow, I uploaded a lot of episodes on YouTube a long time ago and then stopped because they weren't doing well. If you care about that, or if you have a friend, or if you want to share the show, and YouTube is the easiest way to go, it'll be in the show notes, youtube.com/PKMNcast. So, I don't know, hit the bell, subscribe. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, you don't need to listen to get on YouTube. But if you have friends that listen to podcasts only on YouTube, and this is the way to share it, share you will. I am going to see if we can do a little bit of not exclusive, but a little bit of content to YouTube. I know, like, when I stream on Twitch, those streams are like 6 to 8 hours long, and no one wants to sift through that. So I am looking for somebody to help me with that. So if you are interested, feel free to reach out to me on Slack or Discord. I'm looking for a video editor. It would be paid to cut some content to put on YouTube. Just like highlights, exciting parts, me ranting about dumb stuff. If you're interested in that, cool. Also, shout out to my wife. She spent the last 3 years with chatting with Twitter to get the handle PKMNcast on Twitter. So every episode we say at Pokemon Podcast on Twitter. I do still own that handle, but Irene has officially got PKMNcast for Twitter. So our Twitter is updated to that. So now it's PKMNcast on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff, which is a very incredible feeling. So that's cool. Speaking of Twitter, Greg is on Twitter at White Wing. Will is on Twitter at Washing the Sink. I am at Dragging a Lake. Hopefully you enjoyed the long episode. Hopefully you made it to the end. Thank you for anyone who signed up for Patreon this week. Thank you for anyone who left a review. We will be back next week. No Will. Only Greg and I to argue about DLC.
Oh, and we're going to get into it.
You won't believe what will happen in next week's episode.
Number 5 will blow you away.
Oh, no.
This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast, and we are...
super effective.
Super, it's a deer, not a rabbit.
A rabbit.
Gotta get that controversy clicks.
Ugh.
Like every podcast on the internet, we are supported by Patreon. A shout out to all the producer level or higher patrons, starting with Pancakes, Anthony, Noah, Patrick, Jetsy, Alex, Catherine, Pat Matrick, Jeffrey, Kevin, and Cygnus. Thank you so much for the support. If you would also like to support and join our Slack community, you can do so over at ise.cash, or the link is in the show notes below. I guess it's below if you're holding your phone. Well, or maybe not. Anyways, ise.cash is the easiest way to go there. Thank you for the support. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week.